Your Excellency, Robert, dear Catherine, thank you so much for the opportunity you have given me, you will be giving me, to share some of my personal reflections with you. Ça me fait vraiment plaisir d'être ici aujourd'hui. Merci mille fois de me donner l'opportunité de vous adresser et de partager un peu de mes expériences. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, fellow activists of peace. It is an absolute pleasure to be here, and I appreciate really this chance to talk to you. My address to you is framed around 4 topics: respect for diversity, respect for love, the battle against violence, and preventing conflict through communication. We are all blessed in this room to have had the opportunity to grow up in a stable and functioning society. Also, the nourishing, loving, and supporting environment we have experienced from the people around us has always contributed to the strong ambition we all feel close to make this world a better place. A place of peace, a place of joy, a place of belonging. The role of diversity was, in my personal story of life, key within this discussion. I had the enormous privilege to grow up in a country that invests in its people, their ambitions, their dreams, and which is inclusive in its approach to change. Diversity teaches us that opinions, and often the reactions, the actions and conclusions deriving from them, stem from the different aspects of a human being's background, sense of belonging, religion, cultural awareness, and interaction with their peers. This is the core of diversity. Not one person in this room is the same. We might share similar goals and ambitions, such as me and Dr. Baker, to foster a peaceful environment for all, as well as the love for cycling, as I learned yesterday. But the way we act upon upcoming challenges is very much influenced by our own unique outlooks, the things that make us who we are. We must respect this fundamental variety and integrate it into the discussion of peace and how to maintain peace. It is difficult, of course, to understand an opinion that is not only different to one's own, but it is driven by different priorities and founded on different principles. The central challenge of our time is not simple to agree. It is to find the patience to understand one another, to account for our differences, and only through this to reach agreement and thus peace. This brings me to my second point, respect for love. In the words of author Marilyn Williamson, if we let the idea of a pure and all-powerful love, otherwise known as God, guide our life, we'll experience far more happiness, satisfaction, and meaning. She clarifies that this is not a call to any specific religion, but a reflection on the importance of finding love for our fellow people. Respect for love is socially, politically, and economically influenced. And it is a very important factor to include in the peace-building process. We need always to consider social unrest and international tensions as part of this process, but love, the way we love, who we love, how we love, is key and deserves respect. In many parts of the world, we have made a significant progress towards this. We have seen a flowering of political force around gay rights, for example. But there's still so much to do. The political decisions that being gay will cost a person his or her life remains a debated one around the world. The question one needs to ask oneself in a leadership position is, why is it important for me to enforce a specific law? Is it perhaps my cultural upbringing, the social norms where I rule or grew up, or my religion that demands this from me? One must find a way to stand by one's principles while seeking to allow for diversity, in love, in lifestyle, in faith. The question for all of us in this room is what we can do to support these leaders and help them, always with compassion and with consideration from different worldviews. To find a way for all members of the society to feel secure, respected, and included. I personally do not have an answer to this complex question yet. It speaks to a defining discussion within human history, one that treats through all cultures and religions. For as long as we have been able to ask questions, we have asked, who am I and who are they? What makes this acceptable and what makes this not acceptable? We have lived and died by our answers to these questions. And we have, I think, been making gradual progress towards better answers. I believe that fostering constructive dialogue and exchanging opinions and ideas at conferences such as this one is a good start. Especially when young leaders, as you saw today on stage, get involved, learn, listen. Conflict arises when we do not try to listen. Listening does not guarantee peace, but there can be no true peace without listening. Laws, cultural norms, and social constructed rules and guidelines are all man-made. Hence, they can and must be adjusted to fit our fast-moving, and in my opinion, already quite inclusive and innovative society. We must listen to the pulse of our discourse and show humility in adapting to it. This brings me to my third point, the role of forgiveness. I think this is a good moment to introduce a glimpse of my personal experience through my military career. I spent 6 years in the military and was deployed at the age of 18 as the only woman of my draft to the former Yugoslavia. Two groups were struggling with and continue to experience severe tensions in this region, the Albanians and the Serbs. I saw much on the ground in these 5 months of deployment. Families being torn apart by a decade-long conflict, people dying, children orphaned, the country left unstable, unsafe, and suffering economically. Young people being raised with the bitter inheritance of their parents' and grandparents' suffering. This inevitably biased them in their approach to this conflict. It is hard to listen when you are in pain. It is hard to listen when you have been told from birth that someone is an enemy, that you should not engage with them except in violence. Again, communication is key. The cycle of tension must be broken. Emotional wounds, cultural misunderstanding need to be healed. I'm not saying that history needs to be forgotten. What I'm saying is that there needs to be more opportunities for conflicting groups to interact and foster dialogue in a safe and constructive environment. I know of a few NGOs who are creating safe platforms of dialogue through, for example, sharing a meal in a neutral place as a starting point for discussion. Recognizing that those we all call our enemies are of course different, but that they love no less than we do. Listening to them, through this we can find forgiveness for them, and they for us. We can reject violence. This brings me to my next point, on the last one. the battle against violence. I think it is clear that where there are people, there are differences. Where there are differences, there can be tensions. Where there are tensions, there can be violence. If you follow the news and see troubling messages and information, you may often think, I should really try to change something in my society. It could be a local issue, such as homelessness, or an international issue, like the tensions in the Middle East. Violence is often not far from troubling issues, wherever they might pop up. When a human being is struggling, feels unheard and left out, it triggers action which can include force and violence. How can this be addressed? By getting engaged. One person can make or break a society. Hence, every effort to make your own society more inclusive, safe, and prosperous helps to diminish frustration, injustice, and inequalities. Often people ask me, how can I make reference to this own person? How can I be the part? How can I do this? I could never be so strong that people think I am. I get inspired by the people around me. And I hear these people telling me, but I am not strong. I could never do this. And references such as, anyways, what does it matter? And how do I trigger change? I always stop them right there, reminding them that to me, I was and still are finding my own path to support my own tribes, be the change maker I want to be, emphasizing that for me personally, it is already enough to know that I changed one single person's point of view, that I empowered that one person in a certain community, that I took time for that one letter an individual just needed to receive and read. Each and every one of us is a piece of a global puzzle and has the one missing piece to make this world a better place. One skill, one action, one word, one phone call at a time. Triggering change is not defined by scale of its outcome. It's defined by the general effort of doing so. An example for that was a lovely old lady, for example. I had the privilege to share a few moments in a hospital in Luxembourg. I sat there with my son Gabriel. He had a lot of problems with his lungs when he was a child. Waiting for our name to be called to see the doctor. That lovely human being came up to me, humbled and shy, apologizing for disturbing me before she even vouched her interest in doing so. I listened. She said, "I apologize to disturb you, Miss Tessy, but may I just say, seeing you today with your son, the love you were giving him, the comfort you showed him made my day." She continued by saying, "I lost my husband today of cancer, which made my world crumble into pieces. However, seeing the love of a mother to her young child reminded me that, yes, we will all die one day, but that it is important to enjoy the present moment, be conscious, be grateful, and cherish the memories I had with my beloved husband before his passing." I hugged her long, deeply, with much love. She left. Still today, this very short discussion changed it all for me. It made me realize that everything we experience matters. Everything we experience changes us and the way we approach life and our peers. Therefore, a single person can have enormous effects for better or worse. Look at Osama bin Laden, for example. He was one man who started a terrorist movement which grew to be globally destructive. I want to tie his personal story to the fact that his upbringing led him to become who he was. He was the 17th of the 54 children of a self-made billionaire. When, in 1979, Soviet troops invaded Afghanistan, and bin Laden found his calling, he joined the Mujahideen, worked with Americans to boost the Soviets. He returned from Afghanistan a hero, but his increasing militancy and his growing mistrust of US presence in Saudi, especially at the holy site of Mecca and Medina, see him at odds with his own people. They cast him out. He felt left out, disrespected, unheard, and angry. The ongoing US presence in his home country drove him to ever great distress and eventually to hatred. Neither the Americans nor the Saudis would talk to him. Exile, frustration, feelings of disrespect and hate triggered the first terrorist attack on the American embassy in Kenya. It was the beginning of war, still ongoing today. Again, it started with one man. It takes only one man or one woman to make or break a society. Every one of us has the responsibility to invest in our societies in the best and most inclusive way possible, which benefits society as a whole and not just a few. What I want to say with this example is that we have one man who can trigger such destruction, who can change the conversation for worse. If we have that, then there can and must be also that man or woman who can trigger the opposite and change the conversation for the better. This leaves me with my final point: preventing conflict through communication. A word is powerful, very powerful. We heard a lot of words today. How did they make you feel? Just take as example some of the most iconic words in history. I have a dream, from Martin Luther King. Ich bin ein Berliner, by John F. Kennedy. Just looking at these two small sentences as a framework for my next point, what did these words trigger? They triggered thoughts, ideas, whole movements which made history and changed society irreversibly. People listened. The billion-dollar question is, how do we align different opinions? How do we find common ground? What I find interesting is not always interesting for the people. What I find unacceptable might not be acceptable for my neighbor. As a silly everyday example, that's a funny one. My neighbor in London drilled a hole through my fence to dispose of her wastewater. She thought that was great. Why did she find it acceptable to do so without asking me? Meanwhile, while my little hedge would go over her fence, she goes crazy on me. Even though it was not easy, I had to figure out a solution to resolve these tensions, because neither she or I were likely to leave I had also more amplified situations at work and while being deployed. Situations will always arise. The key is the way we react to it. An anecdote I often use for the hundreds of mentees I have around the world. Imagine you're sitting on a train. It is an empty train. On the left, you have the darkness, the mountain, the shade. On the right, you have the coast, the birds, sun. Which side do you sit? We must address all conflicts, no matter how small or large they might be, with reason, an open mind, know-how, forgiveness, and constructive dialogue. Every opinion needs to be heard, even if not every opinion must be implemented. Just the action of sitting at a table and talking constructively can make a huge difference. Dialogue is the key to creating a more stable, welcoming, and prosperous society. Again, words matter. When we talk and listen, we practice the art of recognizing others' differences, of learning to love and forgive, of diffusing and rejecting violence. We work towards peace. Let me close my speech with a Chinese proverb which has guided me until today. When there is light in the soul, there is beauty in the person. When there's beauty in the person, there's harmony in the home. When there's harmony in the home, there's honor in the nation. Where there's honor in the nation, there's peace in the world. Thank you very much.